Requiem for the Undying. The city slept beneath a haze of rain and lamplight, its cobbled streets glistening like veins beneath the skin of night. In an attic overlooking the Seine, Lucien d'Artois sat before his piano, hands trembling over ivory keys that had grown cold beneath his touch. No sound came, not a single note. Once the world had sung to him, every whisper of wind, every pulse of rain, every breath of a living creature, weaving itself into the grand symphony of eternity. But now silence had devoured him. He, who had composed concertos that made queens weep and angels ache, could no longer hear even the faintest echo of his own despair. Lucien was ancient, impossibly so, a creature of grace and damnation. For centuries, his music had been his prayer, the only tether to a humanity he could no longer claim. Yet, without it, immortality was a tomb. He looked toward, the single candle flickering beside him, the flame bending to some phantom draught. "Is this my penance?" he whispered to no one. "To live forever, deaf to the soul I've bartered away." Then faint, so faint he thought it memory, came a sound, a heartbeat. It belonged to Clara Dalemont, a young violinist seeking shelter from the rain. Her knock had been hesitant, polite, the way one knocks at a stranger's door when desperation outweighs fear. Lucien opened it himself. The first thing he noticed was her heartbeat, quick, uncertain, alive. He could not hear her voice, not truly, but that rhythm, that fragile percussion, stirred something ancient within him. It was music. She entered like a melody rediscovered, her presence casting warmth upon his frozen world. Rain clung to her hair and coat, dripping onto the marble floor. The scent of petrichor and rosewater lingered in the air. She smiled a small, hesitant thing, and apologized for the intrusion. He couldn't hear her words, but her lips formed poetry. When she saw the piano, she asked with reverence, "Do you play?" Lucien only nodded. He sat, fingers upon the keys, and played. Not notes he could hear, but movements he could feel, vibrations through bone and memory. The melody came from instinct, shaped by her presence, her breath, her pulse. And when she joined him, lifting her violin, the sound, though he could not hear it, filled the air like sunrise through fog. For the first time in a century, Lucien felt something close to grace. Over the following nights, Clara returned. She wanted to learn from him, though she did not understand why he never spoke. He watched her hands as she played, the bow trembling, the strings weeping. Each note carried a heartbeat, and in those vibrations, Lucien rediscovered the faint pulse of his own lost soul. He began to compose again, not for orchestra, not for immortality, but for her. He called it Requiem for the Undying. But the deeper the music grew, the more dangerous his hunger became. The smell of her blood filled the room like perfumes. When she laughed, it was agony. When she placed her hand upon his, so trusting, so unaware, the monster beneath his skin shuddered with want. He told himself that what he craved was not her blood, but the music that lived within her. It was a lie. One evening, as she played beneath the dying light, her bow slipped. A small cut appeared on her finger, a single bead of red. Lucian froze. The heartbeat that had become his symphony now thundered in his ears. He saw, in that instant, the centuries of restraint unraveling, the endless hunger pressing against the fragile wall of his will. Clara looked up at him, confused. "Are you all right?" He wanted to answer, but his throat burned. His fangs pressed against his lip, aching for release. She reached out to comfort him, and that was when he heard it again. The pulse, her pulse, louder than ever, like drums beneath cathedral arches. Music. He fell to his knees before her. "Forgive me," he whispered. Her eyes widened as he took her hand, not to feed, but to feel. He pressed her palm against his chest, against the heart that had not beaten in 400 years. "Do you hear it?" he asked, voice trembling. "Your heart. It's what I've been searching for. My requiem. My ending." She didn't understand, not fully, not until he kissed her hand, and tears fell from his eyes, cold as moonlight. That night, he played one final time. The villagers spoke of it for years afterward, that haunting melody that drifted from the manor long after midnight, a requiem so sorrowful and strange that even the wolves fell silent to listen. It wove through the fog like a prayer half remembered, each note trembling in the damp night air, echoing across the empty hills. Some said it sounded like two voices, one human, one not, rising and breaking together, as if love itself had been set to music and then undone by it. The windows of the old D'Artois manor glowed faintly that night, though no candle burned within. Pale light seemed to pulse behind the cracked panes, flickering with the rhythm of a heart, faint, fading, then gone. By dawn, the house stood dark again, swallowed by mist and silence. When the villagers finally dared to enter, the air was thick with dust and the faint, metallic scent of iron, as though the walls themselves had exhaled a final sigh. The grand piano sat open, its keys yellowed, its strings humming softly from some invisible draught, the echo of a song that refused to die. Upon it lay two violins, side by side, their bows resting like crossed hands in eternal repose. A single sheet of music remained on the stand, fragile, ink-blurred, the title barely legible through the watermarks that streaked across it. Requiem for the Undying. Those who touched it swore the paper was warm, that it seemed to thrum faintly beneath their fingertips, as if the melody itself still lived inside it, unwilling to fade. Some claimed they heard a heartbeat in the silence between notes. Others whispered that the sound was not the wind at all, but the composer's final promise echoing through the manor's bones. And though no one ever played it again, some nights, when the wind was right and the fog hung low over the valley, the townsfolk swore they could hear that same mournful harmony drifting from the hills, a ghostly duet of love and loss, of devotion too deep to die. The music lingered like breath on cold glass, tender and eternal, a requiem not for the dead, but for those who loved them still.